Yeah, Phil, you were whereabouts now?
I'm over by Elizabethtown. We talked on we talked simplex actually, 2 meters, and we talked on the E-Town Aries machine and the Radcliffe Aries machine when you called on them, over.
Oh, Roger, Phil. Roger, okay. I was thinking Bonnieville for some reason, but E-Town and Radcliffe. Roger, that was it.
Yeah, that's what we talked on. Yeah, I just was monitoring and heard you. When I first started listening, you were really weak, but I guess the band shortened up a little bit or something.
Yeah, I'm usually not barefoot. Tonight I'm barefoot. Usually I've got the SB220 running, and we're cooking along about a kilowatt. But I did hear Tom up around CINCY in there, and I wanted to make contact with him. And my amp was set up on 20 meters, so I just had to turn it off and go barefoot. Roger.
Well, yeah. Well, I got about an S9 on you with good audio, so you're making it across the river.
Roger there. What's happening in well, E-Town? Are you in E-Town or where?
I'm about 7 miles west of E-Town in a place called RADIOLAND, and there's nothing going on over here today anyway. The usual accidents out there in I-65, that's about it.
Roger that. I wonder what the conditions for the Bonnieville repeater are tonight.
I don't even know if I have Bonnieville in there. I usually talk to you on 145.350 or the 147.150, I think.
Roger, but you copy E-Town on the, let's see here, hang on just a minute here. E-Town on 146.980.
Oh, yeah, we got that one over there too, 146.98.
Let me give you a shout on that one, Roger.
Okay, give me a second to walk to the other side of the room, because my shack is set up weird. I got ATIP on one side of the basement and the 2 meter on the other. I'll be there in just a second.
Alrighty. This is KC9VKV, and we'll be QSY 2 146.980. KC9VKV, and we'll be going to that frequency. Let's see here. Alright, stand by here. This is KC9VKV, Kilo Charlie 9, Victor, Kilo Victor. Let me bring my audio up. KC9VKV, audio check 1 2 3 4 5. KC9VKV.
The time is 2 a.m. and this is the W4BEK repeater. Yeah, Jim, KC9VKV, AE4GH. Yeah, you're coming in full quieting on the repeater down here.
Roger. Yeah, I just got the output of this receiver into my vlog recorder. So, it's still too hot on my voice audio. There, so the audio sounds okay down that way?
Yeah, it is a little bit hot on the audio, but you're sounding okay. Yeah, I heard you talk to the amp, I think he in Hamilton. Heard you talking to him, and but the band changed, because when you first was on talking to him, I didn't hardly hear you, but I heard him give your call sign. And then I guess the band flopped around and you came up, so I could hear you fine over there in 80.
Roger. Well, HF is really peculiar in that sometimes short-range stuff just doesn't happen. You can't get I mean, I've had people from 800 miles away have to relay to another station I was trying to talk to that was like 15 miles away. You know, it'd have to be relayed from 800 miles away.
Oh yeah, we would do something. I can't remember what it was. On 40 meters one day, local, and I could hear the other station talking to local 40-meter stations near me, but I couldn't hear them. And the same thing with 80 meters. I mean, sometimes I can talk to you've talked to Bob, Alpha Delta 4 Bravo Papa over on Fort Knox. And sometimes I can talk to him on 80 meters, sometimes I can't, and he's only like 10 or 13 miles away as the crow flies.
Roger. That was the first thing that I realized that was very unusual about HF. Now, you know, in my younger days, I did my share of CB stuff, you know, and that was quite obvious the way that worked, you know. You know, you were branching out from, you know, just maybe a couple of miles to 10 miles, 15 miles. That would be normal with CB stuff, you know. With a little power, you'd be out to 20 miles, 50 miles, but it would work out like that, you know. But HF, man, you just sometimes can't get there from here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, one time, several years back, I got into a 10-meter FM repeater, and I talked to a guy somewhere, I guess, over by where you are. He was just across the river from Louisville. But I had to talk to him to a repeater that was in Boston, Mass. We went 10-meter FM direct and couldn't hear either one. We had to talk to each other for a repeater 1,000 miles away. And yeah, Jim, I did my share of 11 meters back in the day, and you know, it was really open back then. And then when I got my license back in '92, 10 meters was really open, and now it's just pretty dead up there. But when 10 meters opens up, you can work the world with a little bit of no watts at all.
Oh, that's a Roger. That is a Roger. I spent my first year when I got my technician's license. I spent the first year on 10 meters, and about every day it was open, you know, and just really had a ball on that. Built 3 antennas for 10 meters, or I built 2 of them, and one of them was an Antron 99. The other was a loop antenna, full wave loop antenna, which I had. It was actually rectangular. It was 10 foot on the horizontal and 8 foot on the vertical, mounted straight up in a rotor. And so I could rotate that loop for maximum pickup, you know, and I usually leave, I still have it, and it just loved to go to California. San Diego was its favorite place, to almost a specific street and person. Every time there was any kind of conditions at all, towards California, I would be talking to the same guy in San Diego. It was just uncanny, because he camped on 28,400, I guess. That's the calling frequency, and I camped there. So every time the conditions, you know, came about, we met each other. So we were pretty good friends after a while. But that's you know, like I say, during that time I had a lot of conditions open up on 10 meters real regularly.
W4BEJ repeater.
Oh yeah, I back when I first got my license in '92, I was just a novice. I couldn't even talk on 2 meters. But I had an RCI 2950 and a whip antenna on my pickup truck. And when I would break for lunch over on Fort Knox and go out and get in my truck and eat my lunch sitting in the truck. Actually, I'd pull up under a shade tree and eat my lunch, and I used to talk to like the same guy in Maine almost every day for several months. And then the band would change, and when I got off work in the afternoon, I actually, with 25 watts in the radio, I used to talk to this same guy in Japan almost every day. And all he was doing, he was county hunting. He was looking for U.S. counties. And for the life of me, I was really dumb then. I couldn't figure out how to send him a QSL card. And finally, he said, I really need Hardin County. I really need it. And I said, okay. I said, I'm trying. And he sent me a QSL card. Nice picture of him and his wife and his daughter all dressed up in kimonos and everything, which I still have. But I talked to that same guy every day. And, I mean, it was really uncanny. And, you know, then finally I shifted jobs and wasn't able to get on at that time. So, of course, then it fell out. And that's what happens with 10. And I think it's trying to come back. I've worked a little bit of Texas and whatnot lately down on 10, but I haven't heard anything up in the FM part where the repeaters are. Not at all.
Oh, roger that, roger that. Yeah, not a big fan of UHF, but a strange thing was probably about a year and a half ago, I had this UHF repeater coming out of Miamisburg, Ohio. This thing was giving me a peg out, and I couldn't believe it, you know, and it continued to give me a peg out 24 hours a day for 3 weeks straight. 3 weeks straight. 24 hours a day, a peg out from this repeater. And I met probably about 10 guys down there, or in that time. I became like not a chaperone, but I became probably a nuisance, if the truth be known. But everybody down there knew, you know, what was going on there, and would drop by that repeater to say hello. And I tried, in the interim, during that 3 weeks, I tried every repeater in Miamisburg, and I couldn't get any of them to come back to me. I tried other repeaters along the way, down in Cincinnati and all through there. Nothing. It was just dead as a doornail. But this one repeater just was blowing my antenna off.
Yeah. Have you tried the digital, that DMR stuff?
Not into digital. I don't know. I had a run-in with that probably about 2 or 3 years ago with Motorola's Moto Turbo, whatever, JoJo digital system, and it just, the audio just sounded so monolithic. It just sounded like a robot. You know, all the overtones and undertones were scraped off the voice, and it just sounded, you know, very robotic. You know.
Yeah, we got a bunch of guys down here now that have bought those TYT Chinese radios, and I guess on UHF, I don't know what frequency, but you have to register your call sign in order to be able to use the repeaters, which I really don't understand. But a bunch of guys have bought those TYTs. I think it's an MD380. And they're under $100, and they're talking. They can work the whole state. I guess these repeaters connect together via internet, and they work the whole state and anywhere else via the repeater in New Albany. And depending on which channel you go to, I guess. They call them channels over there, not frequencies. I don't know a lot about it, but the guys are all having fun with them.
Roger that. Yeah, I will maybe get into that later on, but right now, you know, I've got so much going on as far as VHF DXing, casing propagation on VHF. I just really, you know, really love to do that. And the second would be HF, you know, 80, 40 meters in through there. So I've really got enough to keep me busy, you know. And we're doing the QSO-VLOG thing for YouTube. And matter of fact, I'm rolling one now on this particular QSO. That I'm not exactly sure when I'll be able to get it uploaded, but we started this one on HF and then went to VHF, so that should be interesting, Roger.
W4BEJ machine.
Yeah, the repeater won't say W4BEJ repeater, so it says machine. Yeah, AE4GH. Well, that'll be interesting if you can get that uploaded. I know you've talked to a bunch of us down here. You've talked to 84BP and N4RNG, and in fact, you talked to Bob and I don't know, a couple of weeks ago it might have been. I don't know. I don't keep track of time, being retired, to be honest with you. And we just happened to see how simplex was, and we went over to 146.52, and you popped in there. So yeah, we're able to talk across the river, no problem. And as far as VHF-DX, I've only got a vertical. I don't have a beam antenna, so I'm just limited on kind of where I can talk to. But I can talk pretty far locally on simplex. In fact, the local repeaters around here, myself and several other guys, we do better talking on simplex than we do going through the repeater a lot of the time.
Wow, this is KC9VKV for ID. That's really unusual because usually the repeater is capable of taking those Bofang power, you know, low power stuff, and then rebroadcast it to a much higher degree, you know. So you guys being able to talk simplex that well, you know, indicates that you've got pretty good stations. Simplex is a hard thing to, you know, to utilize. You know, you have to have a pretty good system to be able to get any kind of mileage on simplex. So I think anyway, I've got just got a GP9 vertical. And I've been playing around with it. I've got it up about 47 feet to the top of the GP9, which is about in the middle of where my Yagi antennas are. In other words, my Yagi antenna is about in the middle of the GP9 radiator. And so I've been comparing them, and it's amazing that, you know, obviously the Yagis are hotter, but that GB9 has got some pretty good gain on it.
W4BEJ repeater.
Well, they must have this thing set to ID about every 2 minutes. Yeah, all I have is a GP1, and I think I'm going to upgrade it one day. It's only about 27, 28 feet to the base of the antenna, and the Comet GP1 is only at like 4 foot long. You know, it's 2 meter 440, works great. I can talk all the way down to almost to Cave City down the highway, which I can't tell you how many miles that is. I can talk all the way up to Louisville, and of course I talked to you across the river, and I've talked all the way almost to Bardstown on simplex. So it works really well. I'm really thinking about upgrading to one of the ones that has, I can't remember what the dB gain is on this one, but I'm thinking about upgrading and get another one with a little more dB gain, and see what happens. But I haven't worked. Gosh, you were talking about VHF-DX. I don't think I ever worked any, to be honest with you. Now, I did when, years and years back, on an HT, on a homemade quarter wave vertical. I had a homemade vertical that was about 10 feet off the ground. On an HT, I was able to work the Mir space station, of all things. I was watching one of them programs online where you see where it was, and when I saw it was flying in my area, I just started calling and got an answer back, so that was cool.
Roger, Roger. Yeah, I had the one. I've got the space station frequency on VHF in my radio, and I was just tuning through one day, and man, there was this signal that just took my head off. You know, it was telemetry, and I tracked that thing twice. The first time was for about 5 minutes, and that signal was intense, and then I lost it, and then about 3 or 4 minutes later it came about again, and it was again for about 4 minutes, and that was really unreal. The time before that, I had been on my Yagi, and I was talking to a friend of mine that was into those satellites, and he was telling me that there was a pass coming up, and told me where to aim my Yagi, and I did, and then he had to tell me where it was going to be traveling to. So I tried to rotate the Yagi to track it, which is really tough, man, because I would get ahead of it and then have to wait and then get him back. So, I never did have that absolute perfect signal like I did the time when I was on my the GP9 and that thing came over, man. It was just unreal.
Yeah, I had a friend. Gosh, I can't even remember his name now, or his call sign. I haven't talked to him in years. But he was an airplane pilot, and he flew these airplanes that would fly over fires and drop chemicals on them to put them out. And he was flying from out west somewhere to go to a fire that was over here east of me somewhere. And he got on this repeater right here. And I talked to him for, oh gosh, I don't know when I get him, but he was like way up in the air, and this repeater got him far out, and I worked him as he went by, and I worked him clean out till after he got by Frankfort, Kentucky, or out there to the east of me. So, and I worked they have them Comex things for the Aries, and in past years they've had what they call the airborne repeater, and it flies around the state, and I've worked it in a lot of different places, but like I said, height is might. They're up in there, but they're able to hear me anyway.
Oh, absolutely, man. You take an airplane 5,000 feet, and it's going to have a 500, 600 mile range, I bet. I mean, it's just, there's a story about this guy that used to go flying for lunch. He just loved to fly. One time he took off a TV set and ate his lunch as he was flying, and he said, it was one of those older TVs that they had a rotary dial for UHF, you would just turn it. And he said he would get up there about 5,000 feet, and he would just turn that rotary dial, and he said every click there was a different station. He said there must have been 80 different stations that he could copy the mail on.
Yeah, people get up in airplanes, and sometimes it's amazing what you hear when you find them. I worked gosh, I don't remember what it was now. It was an Air Force airborne tanker, and he was out over the Atlantic Ocean, and I think I worked him on 10 meters. I don't remember. But the guy had a ham call sign, and I worked him, and he was out over the Atlantic, and I asked him where he was going. Of course, he said, I can't tell you that. But he was up there to catch up to, I guess, a group of planes to refuel them, and then he was going to come back this way. So, but I don't remember. It wasn't a KC-130, the prop job. It was I can't remember. I spent 20 years in the Army, and I used to know all the planes and even the tanks and planes and everything. But it was quite interesting talking to him. He just said he had like a long wire antenna on top of the plane, and I think it was 10 meters. But then again, like I said, I don't remember. That's been longer than since yesterday, so I don't remember.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, I know what that is like. I talked to one commercial jet, was coming down from Canada, headed to Mexico, and it was on 10 meters. And I talked to him. He was kind of north of west, and he flew. He was headed down to Nashville, and I tracked him from a little north of west all the way down to Nashville, and he hung a right at Nashville and headed for Mexico, and I lost him after that. But he said the antenna for that HF radio was in the wing of the plane, so I guess when he took that right, it changed the radiation pattern, and I did lose him. But I've got that QSO in my repertoire up on YouTube there, and I'll have, like I say, Phil, I'll have this one probably either tomorrow or the next day up if you want to check it out. And then while you're there, you might check out that airborne, what do they call it, air mobile QSO. So, and I think I'm going to jump out of here, man. I'm about wilted down, so let me say 3 is that away. I've enjoyed it, and you have a real good evening. Roger, Roger.
W4BEK repeater.
Yeah, okay, Jim. Yeah, it's like I said, I know I'd worked you before, and when I heard your call sign on 80 meters, I said, well, shoot, let me give him a holler and see if he can hear me, and I guess it worked out good. And yeah, I've meant to go to your YouTube page and listen to some of that stuff you got on there, and I'll do that. I'll look tomorrow or the next day, give you time to get it uploaded and see how I sound on the other end of the radio. All right, KC9VKV, another great QSO, and I'm sure I'll catch you again, whether you come down to this repeater or the Aries repeater, the 145.35 or the 147.15, I think it is in Radcliffe. But this one here, the E-Town one, it's the better of the 3 of them, let me tell you. So have a good evening, Jim. KC9VKV, AE4GH.
The time is 2:25 a.m. and this is the W4BEK repeater.
Roger, Roger, Phil, 3 is that away. This is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor, Kilo Victor. Thanks for the repeater, guys, and we'll catch everybody later. KC9VKV is clear.